I've seen a lot of people have a reaction to DALL-E 2 basically saying, oh my gosh, it's coming after designers. And in my mind, you hit the nail on the head. It's not coming after designers yet. It's coming after artists. It's coming after photographers and
Yeah.
illustrators.
Yeah.
And then secondarily, there's also a lot of AI tools now that are doing copywriting for you. So it's either taking your bad copy and turning it into okay copy, or it's trying to kind of create copy from scratch. What are your thoughts on both of those? So far, it just seems like supporting tool sets.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is to an extent. I definitely think for a lot of things, it's one of the, let's say I'm an illustrator, right? And someone comes to me and they say, okay, I want an illustration that does X, Y, Z. Well, then you as an illustrator are going to spend hours and hours sketching a bunch of ideas. And then you're going to go to the client and be like, okay, any of these? And like, no, it's more like the trees need to be bigger and this needs to be more green. And so there's hours and hours of time spent just communicating, right? Because you have someone who has a vision for what the thing should be, trying to communicate to the artist. And I think one of the really cool use cases for something like DALL-E is to give that superpower to the person who's trying to communicate to the visual artist, like, hey, this is what I mean. Like, here's a visual representation that's pretty close or captures some of the essence or the tone, and then go off that. And now we're starting way further than we would have started before. But it does, like, at a certain point. So for example, we're investors in a company called Framer, right? And so Framer was this prototyping tool. And at first it was never intended to create the final output. But slowly over time, it's like, as the prototyping tool, well, guess what? Like, the prototypes, what are they using to build the prototype? It's HTML and CSS. Like, well, that's a website, right? And then so Framer all of a sudden they realize, like, wait a second, like, this tool set that we built, we can call it whatever we want to call it, but at the end of the day, it's actually building a final deliverable that people work really hard to build. And we've created a much easier way to do that. And so that's where the tension is for me, where it's like, yeah, for a lot of the workflows, it's going to get you 80 or 90% of the way there, 60, whatever. And you're going to need the artists to then take it to the final stage. But like, there will be things where it'll be good enough, right? If I'm doing a blog post and I can't afford an artist for $1,000 or $2,000, like, it's probably good enough, right? So to me, I think, like, it's interesting. And then also, hey, guess what, artists? Like, these tools need your work to build the data models, right? But these artists, they're not being compensated in any way, for their intellectual property, and it is like their work, right? So I think that's also interesting. Like, if you want to do, obviously this is not possible, but like, they let you do things in the style of Van Gogh, illustrations in the style of Van Gogh. Well, let's say there was Daniel Scrivner had a unique illustration style, and there's plenty of illustrators that have that, and I want to do an illustration in the style of Daniel Scrivner. To me, it makes sense that DALL-E would say, okay, well, check this out. Like, we'll let you do an illustration in the style of Daniel Scrivner, not the real thing. It's like the equivalent of, you don't get the original painting, you get the printout. And guess what? Daniel Scrivner gets $5 for that, not 1,000. But you literally did not, you, Daniel, didn't need to do anything, right? All you needed to do was create a body of work that this AI system can build a virtual you, right? That's good enough for 90% of the use case. And all of a sudden it multiplied your impact by, 100x, 1,000x. So that stuff is crazy. It's fascinating. And yeah, I'm kind of, I think, like, designers need to lean into it and understand where the edges are for us, as opposed to, I think it's very easy to just be like, this is terrible, like, machine's taking over. Let's fight this tooth and nail. Well, it's kind of happening, and we need to embrace it and kind of think about how we use it to our advantage in the creative process, and go from there.